Holy shit, dude, I fucking love the dual blades, man. Oh my god. I am just calming the shit out of him, dude. Oh! I fucking love dual blades, man. Holy shit. What's up? I'm SYROBE, and during my live streams, I frequently get asked what the best dual blade setup is for Monster Hunter Wilds, as I theory craft Monster Hunter builds and spreadsheets live. So I'm going to share with you not just my current endgame meta dual blades build, but also several options to progress through the campaign if you haven't finished yet. Let's cover the very basic dual blade setup and go full into my endgame dual blades meta build at the very end. If you're new here, I'm an official mobalytics partner and have created several guides on their website that I'll leave in the description below, ranging from progression of the main story from low rank to high rank and endgame, specifically for dual blades. To summarize it, paralysis dual blades are some of the best weapons for low rank, as most early large monsters have 2 or 3-star weakness to paralysis, making it extremely effective as you aren't able to stack as much damage bonuses with early game gear or early game decos anyway. So I like to rush the Barina dual blades early until you can craft the Guild Knight Sabers for high early game DPS boosts and early access to blue sharpness, which is not only a multiplier to your physical damage, but also a multiplier to your elemental damage, which provides a substantial buff to the Guild Knight Saber's raw damage and water elemental damage. As you progress through the campaign, you'll want to use the Kasari Gamas or the Twin Flames. These are exceptional options as most of the later enemies are mostly weak to fire or dragon elemental damage. And even later, the Jin Decos weapon, or the Flederklon, excuse my German, will be significant upgrades to your DPS. But why do you need element damage on dual blades? Dual blades with elemental damage are the best for highest DPS, since your physical damage gets reduced by your motion values. Your element damage true value is always the starting element number that you have divided by 10. Here's an example of what that would look like. If you had 180 fire damage, it would be reduced to 18. And then after all the multipliers get calculated, you'd end up doing about 2.9 fire damage to the specific enemy that you hit in the specific area that you struck. However, additional elemental skill bonuses are added as flat values and are not reduced by motion values, making it extremely important for dual blades to have elemental damage for high DPS. A motion value, to put it very simply, are the types of attacks your weapons can perform. So a greatsword is slow but hits hard with high motion values, and dual blades are fast but not as strong per hit due to lower motion values. Things like status effects are generally decent all around, but in my opinion, endgame monsters gain so much HP increase that it'll be tough soloing them without the extra elemental DPS, especially when some monsters can have 2 or 3-star weaknesses to specific element types. If you're looking for a reliable endgame dual blades build, be sure to check me out on Twitch as I live stream theory crafting every day. My current setup gives me plus 15 affinity from Frenzy, plus 10% affinity from Antivirus. No, not 15. That's an in-game tooltip error that I'll get into later. Plus 30% affinity from Weakness Exploit and 20% bonus affinity if Weakness Exploit is hit on a wound, and 5% base weapon affinity for 60% affinity minimum up to 80% affinity total, with a ton of added elemental damage bonuses and stamina reduction, which allows our demon form to last twice as long when using dual blades. My current setup gives me max level 5 Weakness Exploit, max level 5 Burst, max level 3 Marathon Runner, max level 3 Coalescence, max level 3 Antivirus, level 2 Constitution, and level 1 Flinch Free. With this, I use the Chain Charm level 2, and this is the armor set I used. These are the best in slot armor pieces, the best in slot armor decos, and these armor decos and armor pieces are not flexible. These are mandatory for my build. The only set bonus we need is the 2-piece gore set bonus that automatically inflicts us with the frenzy debuff whenever we fight a large monster. This is actually a good thing because cleansing it gives you a ton of buffs after. I'll explain the best weapons and weapon decos after I explain the armor buffs. Weakness Exploit grants you a 30 to 50% crit chance on any weak points at its max level 5 tier, which is what we have with my build. However, weak points are not determined by what it says in your journal. These weak points labeled here are different than the actual weak points that Weakness Exploit triggers on. It's likely a translation error, but a weak point is anything that gives you yellow damage numbers when hit, or orange on a wound. The book weak points are something different and are not to be confused with this. It's too complicated to get into it right now, but these values down here are the real weak points. Anything with around 3 to 4 stars should be a high enough hit zone value to qualify as a real weak point for Weakness Exploit to trigger and grant you free crit bonuses. To put it simply, anytime you hit an enemy and it's a yellow number, that means Weakness Exploit should be working. Then we have the max level Burst 5. Thanks to another video on YouTube, they provided us with every single individual value that Burst can provide for every weapon in the game. At Burst first 5 for dual blades specifically, we gain 120 element bonus and 18 raw physical attack, which is a significantly massive increase in your DPS with dual blades. When testing how long it takes to actually cleanse Frenzy, you have to repeatedly attack an enemy, but it doesn't say how much. So this is just a really rough estimate based on my manual testing, but it seems it takes around 50 hits in order to cleanse the Frenzy from yourself to receive the positive buffs that come after. I don't think this is 100% accurate, but it's the only pattern I noticed, which I completely started and then finished while reading this paragraph. Upon cleansing Frenzy, our Coalescence and Antivirus bonuses from our Decos will activate. However, a hidden secret of the Frenzy debuff is that even without Coalescence and without Antivirus, cleansing Frenzy gives you a 15% crit bonus. Once again, cleansing the Frenzy debuff activates Coalescence and Antivirus. Coalescence lasts for about 30 seconds, and each point grants around 5% elemental bonus at level 1, a 10% total bonus at level 2, and a max 15% elemental bonus at level 3. Antivirus provides bonus affinity or crit chance, giving you 3% at level 1, 6% at level 2, and it says 15% for level 3, but this is actually a tooltip error from the developers, because in reality, it only grants you 10%. Not 15. And also verify this yourself in the training area by turning on and off all of your skills one at a time and testing it manually like I did. Now for the best in slot dual blades weapons. Again, if this was helpful, be sure to catch me live on Twitch as I stream Monster Hunter Wild theory crafting every day. For your best in slot weapons, it's going to be the Artian Weapons to no one's surprise. But before we get into how to actually craft a god roll dual blades from the Artian weapon pieces, in my opinion, these are the best base game weapons for post game content. Most end game or late game monsters in Monster Hunter Wilds are weak to either fire or dragon most frequently, and if neither of those work well, then usually ice damage is a good third place element for dual blades. This means that regardless of the Artian dual blades or regular dual blades, generally fire, dragon, or ice will be the strongest elements for you to use on the dual blades. Here are the best base game dual blades, in my opinion. Wyvern Lovers for fire damage, the Precipice Jindad weapons for ice damage, and the Hunger Clown for dragon damage. I apologize to all the Germans in advance for butchering that. However, now we can talk about Artian weapons. First off, these weapons are ugly as fuck. I don't care. I genuinely hate having to use these weapons because it looks like I'm dual wielding toilet seats and layered weapon cosmetics cannot come out any sooner. Capcom, please. Anyways, the Artian dual blades have the potential to be the best in slot weapons, as they have the potential to always have the highest raw damage, highest elemental damage, and always have 3 individual max tier 3 deco slots, which no other dual blades in the base game has. This makes them an insane stat stick, despite how ugly they are. Despite their looks, they unfortunately become the best in slot weapons for current post-game content. However, if you want to use something that looks cooler, I wouldn't blame you. These are my ideal rolls on an Artian weapon. Since it's hard to get perfect rolls, these are some flexible examples of rolls that work best in my experience. You generally just want to avoid affinity at all costs, because we are already getting around 60 to 80% affinity from our gear alone, not even including any affinity from our weapon. So you want to maximize as much damage as possible. As of right now, I always do triple attack base pieces. So each dual blades Artian piece should have the same element you want and all with attack bonuses. Then you finally have the gotcha system, where you'll need to come on and slam and welcome to the jam for these Artian weapons to roll completely randomized stats up to 5 levels max. Each individual level gives you a random stat from one of these bonuses: +5 attack, +5 affinity, +20 element, or +30 sharpness. The bottom line is that for the best in slot Artian dual blades, you'll want to have at least 1 roll of bonus sharpness bare minimum. Anything without sharpness for best in slot dual blades, you should just dismantle. These Artian weapons have minimal white sharpness durability, which goes away very fast. That's why having at least 1 bonus sharpness is key here. White sharpness is also a huge multiplier to your raw attack and elemental damage, around 1.32 multiplier for raw attack and around 1.12 for elemental damage. Now lastly, for weapon decos, I'm going to try and keep this simple, because I stated that generally the best dual blades elements are fire, dragon, and ice. That means you'll at least want their corresponding elemental bonus tier 3 jewels bare minimum, depending on which weapon you choose, as I always prefer to have mastery for the extended white sharpness durability and corresponding damage multipliers. And lastly, critical element 3. The reason for critical element 3 is that a lot of people say this is bugged. And I don't believe that's true. A lot of people have been saying that it doesn't work and that it's bugged and to not use critical element. But I think the reality is that critical element just sucks on most weapons. That's because each weapon has unique bonuses from critical element. Weapons like the dual blades, sword and shield, and bows receive the highest value bonuses, where things like the greatsword and other weapons are a lot less and probably not worth using. In my opinion, I don't believe that this is bugged. And the reason that you need it is because it's physically impossible for any element damage to critically strike without it. And dual blades gains some of the highest values from it, whereas raw damage can always crit normally based on your affinity, but your affinity does not influence your elemental damage on your crits, unless you have critical element. Here are some flexible options if you don't have these weapon jewels yet. I like using the high level attack jewels and razor sharp for great reliable budget decos, until you get the best in slot ones. Of course, hybrid decos exist like these, and you should want to make use of those if you have them, but I won't be going into these yet because it's extremely RNG reliant to get the perfect hybrids, and so long as you have these jewels bare minimum, you should be perfectly fine. To completely summarize my dual blades yap session, for the endgame meta dual blades, you'll want Artian Weapons for fire, dragon, and ice elements, all created from 3 raw attack pieces. Then you'll want to roll sharpness, element damage, or attack damage bonuses. You do not want affinity, since we are nearly 60 to 70% crit chance just from our gear, and you need to maximize your damage instead. You need to maximize as much damage as possible instead. This has been my current best dual blades meta build that I crafted and tested all live on stream. So once again, if you enjoyed, feel free to check me out there. I've been SYROBE, and hopefully I'll see you all live on Twitch. Peace.